So it's finally the end of the summer break, and thank God, because this channel is on the brink of dying again. How else to get the views back up then with a predictions video as we look ahead to the remaining 10... Is it 10? Honestly, I don't care. We all know who's going to win all of them anyway. The remaining however many Grand Prix we have left to go. Hey there guys, I'm Will. Welcome to FP1. Let's get into this. We'll kick things off with the big one. I predict Max Verstappen will probably win the 2023 championship, provided he doesn't go to jail, and even then I haven't got much hope with Sergio Perez. The Dutchman and Red Bull on a whole have done an incredible job this season, but will they win every single race? You see, I don't think so. I've got two reasons for this. Firstly, Max Verstappen has got to have a real reliability issue at some point, though as time goes on that sounds more and more like wishful thinking. And also, let's be honest, Red Bull's focus isn't, and quite frankly shouldn't be, on 2023 anymore. Those championships are wrapped up, as I said, and right now their efforts should be firmly on next season and beyond to try and keep that dominant streak going. Thing is, not every single team on the grid is thinking like that, and that's why I'm going to predict that McLaren will shock us all and transform their recent improvement in pace into a maiden victory for either Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri. The Papaya outfit have made no secret that they've not finished upgrading that car, which has, in recent races at least, looked to be the clear second best in the field. Oh, my early season McLaren jokes are aging worse and worse by the day. Right now, the team I think sniff a bit of an opportunity, make the most out of their competitors switching focus to next year, even if that means harming their chances a bit going into 2024. This is something that Red Bull used to do back in the latter years of Mercedes domination, and while it's not the best medium-term solution, it does keep sponsors, and maybe more importantly at the moment, its drivers happy. As we saw with a little someone called Max Verstappen, that can eventually pay off if you play your cards at the right time. So if McLaren become the season's shock winners, what becomes of the Silver Arrows and #blessed? Well, unfortunately for all you Team LH fans, I think it'll be a second successive winless season for Lewis Hamilton. It seems that every race Merc turn up to nowadays, they claim they've finally made some headway with their W14 car, only for it to somehow get even worse when it rolls out of the garage for FP1. The best chance for a crazy result is probably a track like Brazil again, but like Red Bull, I think a lot of focus is now being placed into next season, and finding a replacement for the track-shagging mess they're currently piloting on a weekend. Fans can rejoice though, as I'm going to predict Hamilton finally puts pen to paper on a new deal before the season is out, and he won't be the only one, as I'm going to say for the first time in as long as I can remember, maybe even ever, I can't be bothered to look it up. There will be absolutely no driver transfers heading into the 2024 season. Lewis we've already mentioned, and unless he decides to retire, which I just can't see at the moment, there's no better option for him on the grid right now. Logan Sargent's spot may also be under threat, though given this is the same team that hung on to Latifi for 3 years, he's probably fine for now. With Haas also expected to retain their lineup, the only real question marks going into next year lie with AlphaTauri and Zhou's spot at Sauber. We'll deal with the second of those first, and unless Pourchaire keeps it out of the wall long enough to win the F2 title this year, Zhou will likely stay put, despite what the stats say. I'd argue he's been the better of the Alpha drivers this year. As for whatever the AlphaTauri team will be called next season, those seats are between Tsunoda, Ricciardo and Liam Lawson, and if their current lineup continue to perform remarkably average as they have been, I don't think there'll be any change there in 2024. If I had my own way, I'd keep Ricciardo around and use him as a bit of a benchmark for Lawson, though I've dealt with the consequences of Yuki slander before and don't want to face the music there again. I do feel bad for Liam though, he just seems to be watching everyone else around him take off. Genuinely, just look at his last race in Super Formula for example. So whilst the driver transfers will be more stagnant than this channel's recent analytics, the personnel changes could well make up for that. We've seen this somewhat already, with Alpine seemingly firing half of the people that work for them, and provided there's no gardening leave getting in the way, it wouldn't shock me to find Otmar Safnauer and Alan Permain finding new homes in Formula 1 relatively quickly. As for Alpine's mess, I'm going to side with the paddock rumours for this one, and predict they bring the walking mushroom cloud back into the paddock. I think we've all come to the realisation now that maybe he was just the sacrificial lamb at Ferrari at the end of last year, and with his stock seemingly rising again, I can't think of a better man equipped to manage the burning house fire that's the Alpine Formula 1 team. Moving on then, let's talk about Vegas, and how it's going to be completely and utterly shit. The hype surrounding this Grand Prix goes above anything I think I've seen in the past, to the point where I believe now we're almost bigging it up too much. Everything surrounding the circuit is obviously big and colourful, and extremely American, but the track itself, it's just mid if I'm honest. Quite frankly, I think Formula 1 have almost shot themselves in the foot here, as with all the build-up we've seen ahead of this one, even a decent race might fall flat of the expectations it set. One thing that won't fall flat though is Daniel Ricciardo. At least I hope not. This one again is probably more wishful thinking and likely contradicts the video I made just a few months ago. But having now watched the Honey Badger's return, I'm filled with a bit more confidence compared to when he was first announced. The Belgian Grand Prix wasn't amazing, that's fair to say, but everything else has looked a lot better for Danny Ric. And had he not made that one mistake through Eau Rouge in qualifying, I think he was on for a pretty decent performance there. Ricciardo certainly appears to have his mojo back, and in a sport that is as much of a mental game as it is a physical one, I think that's going to go a long way. Will he blow Tsunoda out of the water? Well, that's unlikely, though I think he'll finish the teammate battle on top and begin to stake a claim for that potential Red Bull seat opening up in 2025. Okay, that's definitely wishful thinking, let's just move on. Now, I've not mentioned Aston Martin yet. The team that started 2023 so strongly have now slipped down the order and are now arguably close to the bottom half of the field. That's just down to how competitive this season is, behind Max of course. I hate to say it, as Aston and Alonso's resurgence did keep the sport alive in the early part of the season, but I think that chance of a 33rd win is now past us, at least for 2023. The big question now lies with their final placing in the Constructors' Championship, and although they currently sit third, Ferrari are only 5 points back, and whilst the 93-point deficit to McLaren looks huge right now, if both teams' form continues along the same trajectory, I can see Aston Martin dropping down to as low as 5th come Abu Dhabi, which would be an almighty shame, though maybe enough of a message to Lawrence Stroll to sack his son off for someone more competent. As for the rest of the constructors' standings, Mercedes should be able to keep hold of 2nd, whilst Williams will prevail over Haas in the battle for 7th, given the American team are only able to go backwards on a Sunday. So no Hulk podium either, I'm afraid. There you have it then, my mid-season predictions, which will hopefully age slightly better than the ones I made at the start of the year. Yeah, I can't stress enough not to take these seriously. Let's just remember that 7 months ago I said we'd have a close title fight, Mercedes would be regular winners, Aston would be trash, Ricciardo wouldn't get a seat, Williams would be bottom and Bottas would get a podium. I don't know why I do this either. If you did enjoy this video though, I'd appreciate it if you randomly clicked on some of the buttons below. Preferably not the unsubscribe and dislike ones, but hey, it's all engagement, isn't it? And if you are new here, my social blade is predicting we'll hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Quite frankly, I think that's utter bollocks, but feel free to prove me wrong by clicking on that big red button below. Thanks again to all of my patrons and channel members for all of your continued support, and if you'd like to get involved with that, all the links you need are down in the description below. For now though, that's all from me, so I'll be seeing you very soon with another video, but until then, have a good one.